Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a phenomenal weekend, and I hope you're here and you're ready to learn our final unit, Unit 8, measurement and... Hold on. Oh, okay. I just received breaking news. We had a tragedy with a king. King Henry is dead. King Henry was phenomenal king, and he died from drinking chocolate milk. King Henry was a great king. It's such a tragedy. He'll always be remembered. He'll be remembered as the king of conversions. Ladies and gentlemen, what are conversions? That's a phenomenal question. We convert all the time, many different things. For example, we can convert fractions. We learned about converting fractions. We take maybe a half and convert it into tenths. 1/2 is 5/10. So it's taking one thing, put it in a different name, and making it completely equivalent. That's what it is in fractions. What about money? Well, money we can convert dollars into quarters, like $2 is 8 quarters. Or weight, we can convert pounds to ounces, like 4 pounds is 64 ounces. We have length, we can convert all kinds of different lengths. For example, you could take yards, like 10 yards is equal to 30 feet. Or you could take time, like 2 hours, and convert it into minutes, because 2 hours is equal to 120 minutes. So many things in the world are converted, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So mainly we are going to talk about measurements, okay? We're going to talk about measuring length. We're going to talk about measuring weight. We're going to talk about measuring volume. And what volume is how much of something, a space something takes up, like liquid volume. Like if I'm going to drink from this wonderful coffee teacup, the amount of tea that can fit in this is its volume, okay? Or the amount of tea that is in this, I can measure that tea and tell you the volume of the tea. So when we talk about measurement, we're kind of talking about different languages. Like, remember we talked about between 0 and 1, there's 2 different main languages to figure out an amount that is between 0 and 1. We could use decimals or we could use fractions. Well, we're going to kind of have that same idea with measurement. There's 2 different languages that we use. They do the same thing. They measure how long something is, or how heavy something is, or how much space it takes up. But there's going to be 2 completely different languages. Okay, one of them is called the metric system, and the other one is called customary units. Okay, so they do the same thing, but they're just 2 different languages. So, for example, here in the United States, mainly we use something called customary units. Okay, and there's a couple other countries that use that system as well for measuring. So who uses the metric system? If 3 countries use the customary units, everyone in blue uses the metric system. Okay, so it says, according to the CIA Facebook, the United States rather is one of only 3 countries to use the imperial system, or the customary units, and while the rest of the world is using the metric system. Okay, so everyone in blue here is using the metric system. Now, let's talk about the unit we use. So if we're measuring length, we can measure it in inches, or feet, or yards, or miles. So why do you have these different things? Because, well, we know why we don't measure everything in inches, right? I mean, if we're talking about a vacation far away, we're not going to tell you how many inches it takes to get there. So we have miles. For the same reason, we have yards, and we have feet. So let's look at the conversions. So you have 12 inches is equal to a foot, 3 feet is equal to a yard, 5,280 feet is equal to a mile, and 1,760 yards is equal to a mile. So when we're converting between those different measurements, you could look at 3 feet and be like, okay, Mr. Stahl, that's not that hard. If every foot has 12 inches, it's 36 inches. That's not that bad. Good point. But what if you're talking about 34 feet and 51 hundredths of a foot, which when you're measuring things, they're not all perfect, right? They don't all perfectly fit a foot. So what happens then? Well, when you multiply that by 12, it's a little more difficult. It's not the mental math that you would hope for. And then, you punch the numbers and you realize that answer is 414 and 12 hundredths. So measuring weight, primarily ounces to pounds, pounds to a ton. And then volume or capacity, you have fluid ounces, you have gallons, you have pints, quarts, and gallons. Okay, so let's look at the metric system. So if you look at the metric system, yeah, that looks a little confusing. So you got something called a kilo, so let's say that we're talking about measuring length. You have a kilometer or a kilometer. You have the hectometer. It's a hectometer, it's not it's just a hectometer. You have a decameter. You have just a meter. You have a decimeter, centimeter, and little tiny line, millimeters. Okay, so you have 7 different things that you can switch between depending on if it's something that you're measuring that's huge or really small. Okay, so you look at that, you say, why does the world pick that? I don't get it. That looks confusing. Well, I'll explain why the world uses it. Look at where base units is. So since we're measuring length, we're going to call that a meter. If you have 1 meter, and you want to convert it to decameters, you multiply it by 10. And then 10 decameters equals a hectometer. 10 hectometers equal a kilometer. So when you're switching between these, it's all powers of 10. Let's look if it's smaller. Something that is going to be smaller than a meter. Well, 1/10 of a meter is a decimeter. 1/10 of a decimeter is a centimeter. 1/10 of a centimeter is a millimeter. So every time you are going to exchange or convert, it's just powers of 10. Why do powers of 10 why does it sound so familiar? Because powers of 10 is, how do you multiply by 10? How do you divide by 10? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, all you got to do is move the decimal, okay? So all we're doing with converting in the metric system is simply moving a decimal. As long as you could remember that order, then all you have to do is move a decimal. So I stole this from the sheet that I gave you for the week. Now, you have KHD, B, DCM. You have K is for kilometer or kilo. What the hecto? Deca. The B, you're like, Mr. Stahl, that's not meter. B? No, it's called your base because you fill it in. If you're working with meters, you fill it in with meters. If you're working with how much something weighs, then you're filling everything in with grams. If you're measuring the volume, everything's liters. But right now, we're just going to look at the length. We're measuring the length of something. So everything is a meter. And then you have a deca, centa, and milla. Okay? So as long as you could remember the first letter of KHD, BDCM, then it's a lot easier to convert. And right now, it's intimidating. If you've never really converted with the metric system, you're like, oh, that doesn't look easy. Dude, that looks intimidating. Well, when we work through some problems, I promise you it will get a lot easier. Okay, it's a lot to take in the first time you really see this. Now, right now, since we're working with meters, all you got to do after each one of these words is fill it in with meter. Okay? And if you're working with if we're not measuring the length of something, like if we're measuring how much liquid we're putting in it, then you change it all to liters. Or if we're measuring the weight, you change the base to grams and everything else is a gram. So, remember, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. It's a sad story, but it helps us remember exactly how to do this. All right. Today's work, Monday's work. This is what your work looks like for the day. You have that first box. At first, I didn't know how I wanted you to fill it out. Whether you're going to fill it out as King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, or you're going to fill it out with its correct names, right? I'd say I prefer you to fill it out with its correct names. All right. So, in order to do so, we'll do that in a second. So you're going to fill that out by its names, and we'll do that together. And then you only have 2 boxes left. The first one is going to ask you how to convert between kilometers to meters. So if you have 5/100ths of a kilometer, remember kilometers are kind of like miles, like stretches of the highway. If you have 5/100ths and you want to convert it into meters, and meters are more like a meter stick, how many meter sticks would 5/100ths of a kilometer be? And then you're going to choose which of that is the correct answer. And then if you look to the third box, you're going to make 4 conversions for me. All right? But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to change the problem slightly, and I'm going to do the problems for you so you kind of get a better idea. The first box, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. That is phenomenal. That will help you remember the order of all this. But before you need to remember the order of it, you need to know the real names, okay? So the real names are kilo. You don't have to add meter. Just put kilo, hecto, deca, meter, decimeter, centimeter, and millimeter. Remember, you don't have to put meter. So kilo, hecto, deca, base, deca, centa, and milla. Now, you should be good there. You could look at like the hectometer and decameter. What are those? Are those made up? I don't get it. No, they're not made up. But the good news is we're never going to use those. You're never going to be asked to convert to a hectometer or a decameter. So can't we just ignore it? No, because those are part of the powers of 10. You're going to see that if we could use this chart to convert, and we need those there to see how many times we're gonna move the decimal, because they're each powers of 10. Okay? So, which makes the statement true? 9 kilometers is equal to how many meters? So, you have kilometers, you have 9 of them. Remember, a kilometer is like a mile. It's huge. Okay? They're very long. So yes, I have 9/10ths of them. So I don't have a full kilometer, but 9/10ths of a kilometer is still very large. So how many meters is it? Remember, a meter is like a meter stick, okay? A meter stick is, I don't know, like the size of this TV, okay? That's what a meter is. It's comparable to feet or a ruler, okay? It's just a bigger ruler. So what you're going to do is you're going to see where the meters is, and meters is our base, okay? That's like the main thing, the meters. So we're going to go from kilometers to meters, and you're going to say, okay, this is where we're starting, because right now we have 9/10ths of a kilometer, and I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 spots to the right, okay? So I have no choice but to write on this, and I apologize because I'm horrible at it. I'm going to put 0.9. Okay, not too bad. And then I'm going to move the decimal right. I start at kilometers, 1, 2, 3, because I'm ending at meters. So I'm just going to push it right 3. 1, 2, 3. So the decimal's over here. Ooh, I moved it right 3, so I need to add 2 zeros. Yuck. I warned you. So my answer there is 900. Okay? Now, that's cool. Am I really going to have to do that a bunch more times? Yeah. All right. Let's erase this bad boy here. Man, I missed my whiteboard. Let's go back to the pen. Now we're going to go from centimeters to millimeters. So centimeters is this bad boy down here, and we're going to go to millimeters. So a centimeter is like this, and a millimeter, they're like the centipede looking things on a ruler. Okay? So if we have 6/10 of a centimeter and we want to convert that to millimeters, we start at centimeters and we move right 1. Okay? So let's do that in a very hilarious way. Point. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys can see this on the TV or on the camera. I didn't even think of that. All right. Actually, I kind of hope you don't. Now, so 6 centimeters, and I said we're going from centa to milli, so you're going to move 1. So that is, move it over. It was 6/10. The decimal moves over 1. I don't know why I put that 0, but oh well, it doesn't change the value. So now your answer is 6. So this first answer, ooh, that's nice, yeah. The first answer is 6. Let's look at the second answer. So decimals are hard to erase. 8 millimeters to meters. Here's millimeters. Okay, there's 8 of them, and those are so small, so we know it's going to be a tiny number if we're going to convert that exact same length to meters. So we're going to move from millimeters to meters. 1, 2, 3. We're going left. 1, 2, 3. So we're going left 3. So we're going from 8, left 3, 1, 2, 3. Ooh, yuck. So 2, oh my goodness. 2, I'm going to lose my teaching license after making this so disgusting. Looks like a jack-o'-lantern. All right, so your answer is 0.008 there. 0.0, not G, 0, disgusting. 8, and there's a wonderful decimal there. Okay. Let me check that real quick. Millimeters to meters. All right, so I should have explained this as well. See how that has only an M? You're like, so how'd you know it was meters, not millimeters? Because the base is the only thing that's going to have a single letter. Everything else is going to have a double letter, at least. So MM is M and then base. If it's grams, it's going to be mg. If the base is liters, it'll be ml, cg, cl. Right now, since it's meters, and meters is because we're measuring distance, everything's going to have an m attached to it. So that's km, hm, d, km, I think. I don't know. We never used this one. M, dm, cm, mm. Cool? All right. So 5.6 millimeters to centimeters, millimeters to centimeters. You start at millimeters, you go into centimeters, you go left 1, so the decimal moves left 1. So that one, I'm not going to rewrite it on the bottom. I seem to have a little bit better luck writing it right here. Now, my marker went away. Okay, that answer is, let me go, 0.5. Oh man, I can't even get the loop-to-loop on the 6. 5,600 millimeters to centimeters. Let's end this. 302 centimeters to meters. I'm going from centimeters to meters. A lot of people are going to get tricked into, oh, I'm going from centimeters to meters. No, don't get tricked. Centimeters to meters, that's the meter. Left 1, 2. So there's an invisible decimal right here. Left 1, 2. So that's 3. Oh, that looks like a heart upside down. 0.02. All right. I have to get rid of this first because it's driving me nuts. ladies and gentlemen, I know this is frustrating. Just do your best and don't get overwhelmed. We're going to have a lot of examples because we're going to deal with liters and we're going to deal with grams, and they all look just like this. So if you're not understanding everything, just give it a shot. Check the answers. Hopefully you get it right. Okay? All right. Good luck. And then check your answers on my next video. Thank you very much.